for a green revolution in Africa, and Caleb Karuga, my former colleague and journalist, now turned farmer. Thank you both gentlemen for being on the show tonight. Caleb, let's just kick off with you, because we were just looking at, data that showed the average age of a farmer in Kenya today is 60 years old.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about why you decided to get into farming.
And that was the saddest statistic, that you can never tell people that the oldest or
maybe it will scare us into running to the farms to making food for Africa's tomorrow.
True. We grew up at the farms, and farming was used either as a form of punishment or as free labor, because it was not even cheap labor. It was free labor, and we hated that. I hated farming, but you cannot say that you will not farm because of the experience that you had. You had a negative experience at the farm. Now, young people are actually getting or going back to the farms. We are going back to the roots. If now you were to do another study, I don't think the figure 63 years is true. Right now, it has changed. But sadly, those who are getting into farming have gotten into farming either because the media has said farming is good, but they've not been told the ugly of farming. They've just been told of the good. And
we'll get into that in a moment, because I'd like you to break it down for young Kenyans out there who would be interested in getting into it. Valentine, perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about the trends in agribusiness currently.
So basically, when you look at big agribusiness, one of their major challenges is how do they work with smallholder farmers. And what we do at Agra is to be able to support the larger agribusinesses to de-risk smallholder farmer by ensuring that smallholder farmers are economic units. Because when you find, for example, in Kenya, we estimate we have 5 million smallholder farmers. So how do we help those farmers to be able to create economic units through their farmer business groups, and then de-risk them by building their capacity to ensure they're able to do business with the private sector. But really, so you will find that once you're able to do that, then smallholder farmers will be able to get the knowledge that they need to understand how to produce better, but they also understand how to be able to do business both with private sector, but also even with financial institutions. Because one of those things that farmers lack is skills. And the only way an institution like ourselves can really contribute is to ensuring that we empower them, we build their capacity to ensure that they're able to do business.
Caleb, how has your experience been? I mean, he's talked about how smallholder farmers can, for instance, learn from, the larger farmers. How has it been for you in that space, knowing that we all know you were a journalist before?
Initially, it was very hard for you to get a farmer who will readily welcome you to their farm and teach you the ropes, because even them, they're also struggling. And what Valentine here is saying is that if we can have sort of like champions in farming, in every county we have ambassadors that the young people can go and benchmark with, because not all of us are going to go to Israel for benchmarking trips. So if Agra is able to empower such farmers, that we can go and learn from them. And for me, when I began farming, I began on a wrong footing, because I had information but not relevant to what I was doing. I was planting crops that the ecological zone couldn't support what I was doing, but I learned through my mistakes. And that's what now we are teaching young people, that yes, you want to get into farming, yes, you have a few coins you can start farming with, a loan, your savings, but start from the point of information. Look at the 4 factors of production. You've got land, you've got labor, you've got capital, and information or knowledge. For me, I factor more knowledge. Get the relevant knowledge for what you're getting into. And there are people like Agra, there are people all over there who are willing to help you. You just need to seek or ask for information.
Yes, please, just go ahead.
As a matter of fact, if you look at technology for agriculture, it exists today. There's a lot of technology in terms of seeds that farmers need, in terms of fertilizer, in terms of how do you manage the agronomics of your soil, in terms of crop protection. The technology exists. But the question is, how come the smallholder farmer is not accessing that technology? And it's an issue of information asymmetry. Because the smallholder farmer does not know. Or they have been told, those hybrid seeds are not very good for you. So it's wrong information they are receiving. So the challenge for institutions like Agra and governments, it's how do we empower the farmer to understand the technology that exists today, okay? So that once they know, they're then able to take that appropriate technology and they're able to employ it on their farm to produce for a market. But also the other thing that farmers do, and I would guess, you know, that Caleb would have gone through this. Farmers produce and they don't know where the market is. They produce and hope that I will, you know, harvest, haul my crops to the market, and someone will buy it. So farmers need to produce knowing who will buy their produce. Because the consumer like yourself, you know what you want. And there are companies that sell products to you. So those companies, they need to tell the farmer, this is the quality and quantity of produce that we need. Then the farmer should produce for that market. And we talk of integrated value chains. So I'll give you a very good example. We are currently working with key stakeholders in the potato value chain, and we're saying, look, processors of potatoes need this quality of potatoes. How can we then come all together, government, private sector, farmers, financial institutions, that we're able to create an integrated value chain, that farmers in that value chain know who they are selling to, what quality and quantity they are looking for, and then they're able to produce for it. Now, the other players will then provide the seeds, the crop protection, financial institutions will provide the finance, and governments will ensure that the relationships between farmers and the other, you know, key players are well managed, and the right policies and extension happens.
Let's talk about institutions. Before I know that you want to chip in on that particular point. Did you get any help from government institutions? I know you can go and get an extension officer to come and have your soil tested, or just tell us a little bit about where you went and what kind of help that you got.
I would say for poultry, where I started, that's the local kienyeji chicken. I got help from Kari Naivasha. Fantastic, as in they have a wealth of information. When I was a journalist, I learned that we have something called a gene bank, the National Gene Bank, where you can go and make a withdrawal and you get those traditional maize seeds that we had. We got yams, we got cassavas. But how many people know that we have something called the National Gene Bank? So institutions exist. Government is well funded, as in, well, there's information. But to even know where to go and get it was also a problem for me. And I think it's about time that you heard out today that the president has committed $200 million. For me, is let's break it down to, can we ensure that these institutions have an advertising or a marketing budget to say what they are doing? We cannot be having agricultural shows once a year in a particular county, and that's it. Farming is not a one-year event. We need to keep on making it about what we're doing.
What are your thoughts about that? And I like the point he's raised about information. Some people are willing, but some people just have no idea where to get information. How can young people be more, you know, how can more young people get access to this kind of information? You
see, information asymmetry, as I said, is one of the biggest problems of smallholder farmers. And I really want to thank His Excellency the President. The investment that the Kenya government is making of $200 million, one of the areas they are planning to invest that money is in skills development. And that basically means that the government, through its systems, will be able to provide information. And the President mentioned technology. Okay? So they are going to use technology. You know, already the government has what they call the e-extension program. That basically the extension officers on the ground have electronic devices that they use to generate, to download the latest information. So technology will be a key one. And Kenya has made a lot of strides in, the internet penetration in this country is quite high. The mobile penetration, we are actually, trailblazers in the area of technology. So I think one of the key areas the government needs to invest, as they're talking of skills development, is to empower extension officers, but also to ensure that we develop systems that farmers can be able to access information on their mobile phone, whether they're simple phones, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a smartphone. Yes. And that technology exists. But the farmer also should be aware, because again, technology is a farmer aware. So really using public information, a big media institution like Citizen should actually come and play in, because
and we actually do. We've got a program called Smart Farm, which comes every Wednesday. It's taken a short break, but it will be back in a moment. We really need to rush, but Caleb, I need to ask you something about land tenure, because one of the challenges facing many young people want to get into farming is they do not have any land. How did you go about it? Did you have your own land in the beginning?
To date, I don't have an inch of soil I can call my own. I've been leasing land to date. And I think that's a concept that we also need to tell our young people, that you do not need to have a piece of land to your name at a deed. Think about leasing. But then even when you're leasing, you need to have at least 3, 5 years when you're there. Don't take a 6-month, year later and you want to say you want to plant beans, potatoes, and then that's it. So, which also brings to the question, to the fore, there are many people who have idle land. Should we now start talking to them and tell them, would you lease a couple of acres to these young people who want to farm? And so that they can produce and you're going to get some income out of it. So land, the tenure system is quite also a thorny issue. It's a bit emotive of a subject that we also need to deal with it head on. The young people want to farm. They're willing to farm. But where they go, where's the medium from where they can farm from?
All right. Access to affordable credit and working capital for farmers is also a big deal, but you have talked a little bit about that. Yeah. How do you go around it?
So, as I said at the beginning, one of the most important things is to de-risk farmers. And I'll give you examples of some of the programs that AGRA has been involved in. One of the things we have done is to work with financial institutions to provide risk funds that then allows them to lend to the smallholder farmers.
So you guarantee the lenders?
So you guarantee the lenders. But we have learned over time, even when you guarantee the lenders, financial institutions don't necessarily lend that money because as a financial institution, they don't understand agriculture. So today we are working very closely with financial institutions to build their capacity as financial institutions to understand agriculture. Okay? Once they do that, then they are able to develop the right systems. Because, for example, when you apply for a loan to buy a car, and the farm applies for a loan to buy inputs, you're all evaluated on the same level. Because the bankers don't understand agriculture. And, Kenya Commercial Bank today committed $350 million to agriculture, and they're going to commit a portfolio of their loan, a part of their loan portfolio to agriculture. Part of that commitment is to build the skills of the bank, of KCB Bank, that their bankers understand agriculture. The other thing that you also need to do is to also build the skills of farmers and SMEs so that they are bankable. Okay? Once we're able to do that, then we will be able to provide money to farmers. So the situation today is not rosy, but it has good prospects. It's going to happen. When you have a big bank like KCB committing, it shows it will happen. But financial institutions need to come to the party. They need to come to the party. They need to partner with AGRA, because we can be able to help them understand agriculture.
All right. As we wind up, Caleb, your word of advice to young people keen on getting into farming?
It's not as rosy as some of us may make you think it is. It's a risky venture, but once you get into it, the right information, it's a beautiful venture. Think about how you're going to be in agribusiness, not in agriculture. Fanya kilimo biashara. Look at the business part of it and seek information. People out there, they're willing to help you. Just ask them for help.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time to be on the Business Center tonight. Valentine Miheso from the Alliance of Green